Okay, now let's continue from where we left off. So we were answering the question number 8 of problem 1. Assuming ABC currently pays its salespeople a monthly salary of 10,000 pesos without any commission. ABC considers a plan whereby salespeople receive a 10% commission, but their monthly salary would fall to 7,000 pesos. What sales level will ABC be indifferent between the two compensation plans? So this question number 8 talks about our indifference point, which is the level of volume at which total costs or profits are the same between two alternatives under consideration. So, dito sinasabi niya sa number 8, we have dalawang alternatives for which we will consider yung cost ng ating sales people salary. So, monthly salary. We have our alternative A, and then alternative B. Sa ating alternative A, sabi niya daw, salespeople will have a monthly salary of 10,000 pesos. So, 10,000 pesos daw yan. And then, it would be indifferent. So, indifference point, diba? Kung indifferent yan, that means mag-i-equal silang dalawa. So, equal silang dalawa. And our alternative B would be meron silang monthly salary na 7,000 plus yung ating variable cost na 10% commission. So, saan nga ba nakarelate yung commission? Diba sa sales yan? And our sales is 25 pesos per unit. So, for every 1 unit na mabibenta nila, 10% from that 25 pesos na selling price will be their commission. So, 25 na selling price natin multiplied by 10%, 0.1, and then how many units yung mabibenta niya. So, to compute for this, sa algebra nyo, yung transpose, we transpose yung 7,000 dito sa kabilang side, 10,000 minus 7,000. And then, this will be equal again. Now, and then, dito, matitira 25 times 10% would be 2.5x. 2.5x. So, 3,000 equals to 2.5x. Therefore, x would be, then yung x, the x natin would be 1,200 units. So, 3,000 divided by 2.5. Sa algebra nyo, alam nyo na yan. So, 2.5 divided by 2.5, that will remain x. Si x ang remain because maka-cancel out si 2.5, and then 3,000 divided by 2.5, that would be 1,200. So, let's see if dito sa sagot natin na 1,200 units, talaga nga bang magiging indifferent yung dalawang alternative natin. So, we have our alternative A and B. So, they are both 1,200 units. So, kung both silang 1,200 units, then we have our alternative A. Alternative A natin, which is fixed cost of 10,000 monthly salary. So, the sales will be, ilan yung sales natin? 25 pesos multiplied by our units na 1,200. 1,200, that would be, ang sales ay 30,000 pesos. And then, we have our variable cost. So, the variable cost will be 10 pesos multiplied by our 1,200 na units. 12 pesos, that would be 12 pesos. Next, we have our contribution margin. So, sales minus variable cost na to get our contribution margin of 18,000. And last would be our fixed cost. The fixed cost will remain the same at 150,000 because ito yung alternative natin eh. Sa ngayon daw kasi currently pays na 10,000 pesos monthly salary. So yung monthly salary na 10,000 pesos is considered the fixed cost. So in this case, ang ating net profit or the net loss is 132,000 pesos. So tingnan natin kung sa alternative B natin with the same scenario kung saan si ABC company would pay a monthly salary of 7,000 and then commission na 10% para sa bawat unit na mabebenta ay the same. It will have, so 1,200 units na mabebenta would yield to the same profit na 132,000 or the same net loss na 132,000. So the sales will be the same, actually the same kasi 1,200 units multiplied by our 25 pesos selling price. So the same silang 30,000. Pero dito tayo sa variable cost magkakaiba. Bakit? Kasi, di ba, sabi niya, si alternative B, magkakaroon siya ng 10% commission. Ano ba yung 10% commission? Di ba ito ay maidadagdag sa variable cost because this 10% commission is constant per unit. So, constant siya per unit na 10%, pero di ba it varies by level. So, habang nadadagdagan yung units sold mo na nabebenta, madadagdagan din yung total cost mo. So, nasa definition siya ng ating variable cost, kaya itong commission natin, 10% commission, will be included sa ating variable cost. And ang variable cost natin today or currently is 10 pesos, then we will add 10% of the selling price, yung commission, nadagdag natin dito. Sa nabanggit kanina, saan nga ba kinocompute ang commission? It will be sa selling price. So, 10 pesos plus 10% ng 25 pesos selling price would be 10 plus 2.5. So, ang ating variable cost will now be 10, current variable cost plus yung 10% ng 25 selling price would be 2.5 multiplied by our units na 1,200. So, ngayon, ang variable cost natin would be 15,000. Meanwhile, our contribution margin would be 30,000 na sales minus variable cost na 15,000. That would yield to 15,000 contribution margin. And ngayon, so mayroon pang nadagdag na isa. Sabi niya na dito daw, monthly salary nila ay magfo-fall down na sa 7,000. So, yung current monthly salary ng salespeople nila or yung selling and administrative expense is 10,000. Pero dito sa alternative B, the monthly salary would fall to 7,000 daw. Ibig sabihin, bumaba siya ng 3,000 pesos. So, yung fixed cost natin, dapat bababa siya, but by the same amount na ibinaba mo doon sa monthly salary. So, instead of 150,000 ang ating fixed cost, it will now be 150,000 minus the 3,000 na ibinaba, and that is 147,000 na fixed cost. So, to get our net profit or net loss, it would be 15,000 minus 147,000 na fixed cost, 132,000. So, yung computation natin, itong alternative A and alternative B is true na ang indifference point nila in units would be 1,200 units. So, that is the purpose of our indifference point. So, yung indifference point natin, it serves as a decision-making tool in which dito natin makikita yung indifferent. So, indifferent meaning wala kang, kahit anong alternative ang piliin mo, it will be the same. Pero, magkakaiba yan kapag tumaas or bumaba yan. Kasi, from this indifference point na the same sila, so kahit anong piliin mo sa kanilang dalawa, so 1,200 units na pinoproduce at binebenta mo, you will be indifferent. Pero ang magkakaroon yan ng problem kung mas mataas sa indifference point yung ibebenta, yung pinroduce at ibebenta mo. Ibig sabihin nun, mas mataas yung units, mas mataas yung variable cost mo, thereby mas magiging mababa yung profit mo. Pero kapag mababa sa unit ng indifference point, so hindi ka malulugi sa fixed cost ay dito sa commission base because mas maganda siya dahil mas mababa yung units na ipoproduce at ibebenta mo, mas mababa yung magiging variable cost mo. Kaya kung mas mataas sa indifference point sa 1,200 units yung gusto mo ibenta, you may opt to choose yung ating alternative A, which is fixed cost lang kasi kahit na marami kang mai-produce pero fixed lang na 150,000 yung ibabayad, yung fixed cost lang na 150,000 at 10,000 lang fixed monthly salary ibabayad mo sa sales people mo. Pero kapag dumami na ng dumami yung ibebenta mo, it will be a burden for you as the management of the company kasi mas malaki yung commission na ibabayad mo. Kaya yun. So, it depends to you as the management of the company how you will use this indifference point. Now, we are done with this. Let us now move sa ating second problem. For our second problem, ayan. Sabi niya, DEF company sells tables and chairs in sets. The projected profit for next month is as follows. So, you will now see this problem. Required. How many units of chair should be sold next month to break even, and how many units of table should be sold turn a profit of 150 pesos. So, ayan. Now, we will move sa ating discussion na sales mix. Ano nga ulit yung sales mix natin? So, for our sales mix, sabi niya, it is the proportion of different products that comprise the company's total sales. So, in our case, dito sa ating problem, kay DEF company, ang binebenta niya daw na different products na nagko-comprise ng kanyang total sales is the chairs and the tables. Sige, i-plot natin ngayon or ilagay natin yung ating mga given. We have our chairs and our tables. So, the chairs and the tables. For 45 units ng chairs, meron daw tayong 15 units ng tables na nabebenta. And going back sa ating assumption, di ba sa ating assumption kanina, sabi dito na yung sales mix must behave as constant. So, dito sa assumption natin, sa pagko-compute ng sales mix, every time na makakabenta daw tayo ng 15 tables, katumbas nun, or makakabenta rin daw tayo ng 45 chairs. So, fix lang yan, or constant yung sales mix natin na yan. Hindi pwede mabago na magbebenta ka 10 chairs and then 15 tables. So, hindi ganon. So, dito sa assumption natin, every time you will be able to sell 15 tables, 45 chairs daw yung katumbas nun. So, sales natin 540 sa chairs, and then 450 ang variable cost. Our contribution margin is 90 pesos. Kay tables naman natin, 135. And then we have our variable cost of 75 and contribution margin of 60. Last, we have our total. So sa total natin, 675. Then less our 525 na variable cost. Nakakuha tayo and then our contribution margin 150, and we have our fixed cost for both products. Fixed cost is constant na fixed, 100 pesos, and our profit will be 50 pesos. So, total profit na 50 pesos. Ngayon, compute natin ito per unit. So, compute natin per unit yung chairs and tables. Pati na rin yung ating ratio. So, per unit daw na chairs, ang selling price natin, 540 divided by total units is 45. So, 12 pesos daw ang per unit na selling price ni chairs. Then, yung variable cost niya, 450 divided by 45 units, that will be 10 pesos in variable cost. At we will arrive to our contribution margin ng shares would be 12 minus 10 na variable cost, that would be 2 pesos. So, sa ratio natin, 100% yung selling price, and then yung variable cost divided by our sales, mali. So, 10 divided by 12, that will be 0.83 or 83%. So, 83%. And our contribution margin would be 2 divided by 12. That would be 16.67% or 17%. Yan. Now, let's move sa ating tables. So, sa ating tables, magkano? Yeah. Ayan. Tandaan nyo na lang, that is units. 45 units sa chairs and then 15 units sa table. Insert pa tayo dito para hindi siya masyado magkatabi. So, let's compute for per unit selling price on tables. Per unit selling price of the table would be 135 total divided by total units na 15. That would be 9 pesos selling price per each table. And then the variable cost would be 75 divided by 15 units, that would be 5 pesos. And our contribution margin, 9 minus 5 would be 4. So yung ating contribution margin would be 4 pesos. So sa ratio, we have 100% sa ating sales. And then variable cost would be variable cost 5 divided by 9, that would be 56%. So 56% yan. And then we have our contribution margin ratio. So, contribution margin ratio natin 4 divided by 9 na selling price, that will be 44%. So, 44% ang contribution margin ratio. Now, let's move sa ating requirement. So, requirement number 1, how many units of chairs should be sold next month to break even? So, ilan daw units ng chairs ang kailangan natin maibenta para magkaroon ng maging break-even tayo. So, paano na i-computations natin ng break-even? So, to compute for our break-even point, in units, we have our fixed cost divided by unit contribution margin. So, pag kinompute ba natin dito, ating fixed cost would be 100 pesos divided by break-even point. Tama ba na ang gawin natin dito would be 100 pesos divided by our contribution margin na unit contribution margin nilang dalawa. So, ang unit contribution margin is 2 at saka 4. So, 2 plus 4. Ganun ba? Tama yon? Magiging tama ba ito? So, ang ating break-even point would be 16.67 units. Tama ba? Of course not. Because we have our sales mix. So, etong formula ng break-even point na to, this will be hold true etong formula natin kapag single lang yung product na ibinebenta ni company. Pero kung marami na yung product na binebenta ni company and that is our sales mix, we have to use yung ating weighted average unit contribution margin. So, our weighted average contribution margin per unit. So, dito, ang ating break-even point, so to compute it, we first have to compute sa ating weighted average contribution margin per unit. So, paano ba natin malalaman yung weighted average contribution margin per unit? To compute for that, kuhanin natin ngayon yung percentage ng ating sales mix. So, sabi natin, di ba kanina, for every 15 items or for every 15 units ng table, nakakabenta daw tayo ng 45 units ng chairs. So, to compute for our weighted average contribution margin per unit or WACMU, ayan, WACMU daw yan. That would be, chairs natin, chairs and then table. Sa chairs natin, we have 45 and then sa table, we have 15 units. And total nito, the total of this will be 45 plus 15, it will be 60. So, To get the average, so sa average natin, we have to use ito, 45 divided by our total 60. This will be 75%. And ating tables naman, 15 divided by 60. This will be 25%. Now we have our total na 100%. So ito yung ating weighted average contribution margin. So now, let's see. So ito pa lang yung ating percentage. Now, average pa lang to, average. Ito yung percentage niya. Si chairs would be 75% and si table would be 25%. Now, let's compute for our contribution margin. So, sa contribution margin daw, contribution margin ni chairs, ang CM niya, contribution margin ni chairs would be 2 pesos and si tables naman ay ito, 4 pesos ang kanyang contribution margin. And using our sales mix ratio, itong ating sales mix ratio, using our sales mix ratio, multiply natin 2 na contribution margin ni chairs multiplied by 75%, itong sales mix ratio ni chairs, we will now get our contribution margin ni chairs na 1.5. Meanwhile, kay table naman, 4 yung kanyang contribution margin multiplied by sales mix ratio na 25%. So, to get this, we now have our weighted average contribution margin na 1.5 plus 1 sa table, that would be our 2.5. So, yung 2.5 yung ating weighted average contribution margin per unit. So, using this weighted average contribution margin per unit, we can now solve for our break-even point with our sales mix. So, yung break-even point ulit natin kanina, ito overall break-even point ng units fixed cost. So, using our fixed cost na 100, ayan, 100 pesos, fixed cost na 100, divided by our weighted average contribution margin per unit na 2.5, this will be 40 units daw. 40 units ang ating sagot. Tama ba ito? Tama ba? Tama ba yung sagot natin sa requirement number 1? How many units of chairs should be sold next month to break even? Yan. Of course not. Bakit? So, hindi tama na ang sagot natin sa number 1 or requirement number 1 would be 40 units because this 40 units pertain to our overall sales mix. So, ang buong sales mix daw na kinocomprise ng ating chairs and tables, dapat daw 40 units yung mabebenta natin para makakuha tayo ng break-even. So, to compute for separate na chairs and tables, ngayon, compute natin itong break-even point na to using our sales mix ratio. So, kung 40 units daw ang break-even, ayan, break-even point in unit. So, break-even point in unit, 40 units. And ang chairs daw, or sa sales mix ratio natin, chairs will comprise of 75%. Kaya 40 times 75%, ayan, 30 units daw. 30 units of chairs. And then sa table natin, this will be 40 multiplied by 25%. Ayan, 10 units. 10 units. So, 30 plus 40, this will be 30 plus 10 pala, this will equal to 40 units. Kaya, ang tamang sagot sa ating requirement number 1 would be 30 units of chair ang ating ibebenta next month para tayo ay maka-break even. And, next tayo. Before we answer itong requirement number 2, so tingnan nga natin Garod ngayon kung mag-hold true ba itong ating sagot na 40 units talaga yung ating break-even point with 30 units ng chairs and then 10 units ng table. Sige, compute natin. Let us now compute. Teka, sumobra ako. So, sa chairs daw natin, let's use this. So, sa chairs daw natin, we will now have 30 units ito. 30 units. And then, ating tables would be 10 units. Chairs and tables. So, sa sales natin, this will be 12 pesos selling price multiplied by 30 units. This will be 360. And then, variable cost natin would be 10 pesos multiplied by 30 units, 300. Kaya ang ating contribution margin, 360 minus 300, this will be 60 pesos na contribution margin. Per unit naman, ating 12. Ito, gaya na natin, 10 and then 2. So, sa ratio natin, this will still be 100%. So, 100% pa rin ito. And the same lang siya dito. So, copy na lang natin and then paste. So, now next tayo kay tables. So, sa tables natin, ang selling price would be 9 pesos. Then, variable cost 5. Pati yung ating contribution margin na constant will be 4 pesos. Yan. So, to get the total sales sa ating tables, mabenta tayo ng 10 units multiplied by selling price na 9 pesos. This will be 90 pesos. And then total variable cost na 10 units multiplied by 5 pesos, 50 pesos total ng variable cost. Contribution natin would be 90 minus 50. That will be 40 pesos. Then, mag-hold true lang itong ating ratio because this is constant, the unit. Ngayon, tignan natin yung ating total. So, the total would be 360 plus total sales ng table would be 90 pesos. So, 450 yung total sales natin. Ating variable cost ang total ay 300 sa 30 units ng chairs plus 50 sa 10 units ng tables. This will be 350. So, ang ating contribution margin would be 450 minus 350 ay 100 pesos. And ang ating fixed cost, this will be fixed. So, constant yan. 100 pesos. Kaya, ang ating profit or loss would be 0. Ayan, break even. So, totoo nga na ang break even point ng ating sales mix will be 40 units. Yan. So, that is how we compute for our break-even point ng sales mix. Now, let's move sa second requirement. So, for our second requirement, how many units of tables should be sold to earn a profit of 150 pesos? So, for our requirement number 2, let us now use itong second formula natin sa sales mix in which yung overall break-even point natin will have a target profit. Hindi pala ito gagamitin natin, but we will use yung itong break-even point formula natin with the target profit. So, fixed cost plus target profit divided by, this will be weighted average contribution margin per unit. So, yung may target profit tayo. So, to compute for that, target profit sales. Units pala. Target profit units. This will be yung ating break-even point. Teka. I-unhide pala natin yung information kanina because we need this information. So we need this information na ating sales mix. Kaya to compute for our target profit in units, fixed cost, ang ating fixed cost will still be 100 pesos plus yung ating target profit. Magkano target profit natin? 150 pesos, 150 pesos divided by our weighted average contribution margin per unit, that will be 2.5. So, ang ating target units is 100. So, 100 daw ang kanyang target units to get a profit or to be able to have a profit of 150 pesos. So, let's see. Kung 100 units daw ito, 100 units ito, tingnan nga natin kung mag-hold true ito. So, sa 100 units natin, this will be 100 multiplied by 75%. So, 75 units daw ng shares ang kailangan natin mabenta, and then 100 multiplied by 25%. So, 25 units ng table ang kailangan natin mabenta para daw tayo magkaroon ng target profit na 150 pesos. Check nga natin kung mag-hold true ba ito ating computation. So, to check if this is true, gamitin ulit natin yung kanina. Given natin, we have our dito, this will be our shares na ang ating shares ay 75 units daw. And then we have our tables. So sa tables natin, 25 units. Ayan. So the total sales would be, yung per unit, ito 12 multiplied by 75 units, 900. Variable cost would be 10 pesos multiplied by 75 units, 750. Ating contribution margin. So for our contribution margin, this will be 900 minus 750, 150 pesos yung contribution margin nito. Hindi ko na, copy-paste na lang natin to. So the same lang din naman yan. Kaso ito ay nabago. And then, sa tables tayo, 25 units multiplied by our per unit selling price, 9 pesos, 135 yung total sales. Sa variable cost naman, 25 units multiplied by our variable cost per unit na 5 pesos, that will be 125. And then, ang contribution margin would be 135 minus 125. This will be 10 pesos. And ito, the same pa rin ito. This will be constant. So, to compute for the total, so sa total natin, 900 plus 135, this will be 1,035. So, sa variable cost naman, 750 plus 125 variable cost ng table, that will be 875. To get our total contribution margin, 1,035 minus 875. This will total to 160. And then, wait lang, may error pala. Ito, nagkamali ako. This should be 25 units. So, typographical error. So, 225 yung total sales natin sa tables, and then 125 yung total variable cost ng tables. Kaya meron tayong 100 na contribution margin. So, to compute for our total sales, we will now add yung total sales ng shares and then tables. This will be, total nito ay 1,125. Then, sa variable cost natin, total would be 750 plus 125. So, 875. To compute for the total contribution margin, this will be 1125 minus 875 equals sa 250, and plus our fixed cost na 100. So, compute for the fixed cost, 100. mag-arrive tayo sa ating target profit, 250 minus 100 fixed cost, this will be 150. Ayan. So, nag-hold true yung ating computation na total ng 100 units ang kailangan maibenta para tayo ay magkaroon ng break-even point with a target profit na, hindi pala break-even point So, mag-arrive tayo sa target profit na 150 pesos if we are able to sell 100 units ng chairs and tables. And that comprises ng 75 units ng chairs and ang tamang sagot sa requirement number 2 would be 25 units ng tables. Ayan. So, then this concludes our problem number 2. Then last problem, we have our problem number 3. So for our problem number 3, sabi niya daw, JMK recently opened a fitness gym exclusive for celebrities. And the results or the result of first year of operations are as follows. Sales, variable cost, contribution margin, fixed cost, and then the profit are given. JMK is not happy about the results of his gym's first year of operations due to the following. Si JMK, na-observe niya daw that despite the high contribution margin, mataas ba contribution margin niya, 150, profit was still low due to the high fixed cost. So mataas daw yung fixed cost natin, 120,000, kaya mababa yung profit. And then, next na result, JMK hence concludes that an increase in sales would not produce a satisfactory increase in profit. Required. Explain to JMK that his conclusion is not right by computing the operating leverage factor. And then requirement number 2 is, if sales increase by 10%, then how many percent would profit increase? Ceteris paribus. So note, determine the percentage change in profit by using the operating leverage factor. So para maintindihan natin, balikan natin yung definition ng operating leverage. So degree of operating leverage is it measures how sensitive the pre-tax profit is to sales volume increases and decreases. It is also known as operating leverage factor. So paano ba natin explain kay JMK na mali daw yung sinasabi niya na despite yung high contribution margin niya, yung profit daw niya ay hindi magi-increase kung yung profit daw niya ay mababa pa rin dahil mataas yung fixed cost niya at hindi ito mag-i-increase or hindi siya tataas ng kasing taas or napakataas dahil lamang sa fixed cost na mataas. So, kailangan natin ma-prove na mali si JMK doon. So, to prove for that, we will now use yung ating degree of operating leverage. So, sabi niya nga, dahil nga daw, si degree of operating leverage natin, siya yung magme-measure ng sensitivity. So sensitivity daw siya kung gaano ka-sensitive yung increase or decrease sa volume natin, ganun din yung magiging effect nito sa ating profit. So, kung mas mataas yung degree of operating leverage natin, ibig sabihin nun, mas mataas or mas magiging, kasi si degree of operating leverage natin, it has a multiplier effect. Kung saan, kung mataas yung increase ng sales volume natin, dahil mataas yung degree of operating leverage natin, tataas din yung ating profit at the same time ng pagtaas ng sales. Volume sales volume. Pero kung mababa yung degree of operating leverage natin, then walang effect yung pagdami ng sales volume natin sa pagtaas ng profit natin. Kaya dito, so let's now compute for this at pakita natin kung paano bang nagkamali si JMK sa kanyang sinasabi. So, ang sales daw niya, 250,000 and then 100,000 na variable cost. Contribution margin will be 250 minus 100. This will be 150,000 and our fixed cost now 120,000. So, yung profit is 30,000. Yan. So, to compute for our degree of operating leverage, DOL daw natin, using this formula, DOL, contribution margin divided by pre-tax profit. So, yung contribution na margin natin na 150 divided by our pre-tax profit na 30,000, ang ating degree of operating leverage ay 5. So, this 5, it actually means yung multiplier to, 5 times daw. So, every time na mag-increase yung sales volume natin, 5 times no increase nun would be for our profit. Or, sige, pakita natin using this requirement number 2. So, sa ating requirement number 1, explain to JMK that this conclusion is not right by computing the operating leverage factor. So, mali yung sinasabi ni JMK na mababa yung profit niya dahil mataas yung fixed cost niya at hindi ito yung increase in sales will not give a satisfactory increase in profit because mataas yung niya degree of operating leverage. This is 5 times. So, let's show to him or her, kay JMK, na yung kapag nag-increase tayo ng 10%, then magkakaroon pa rin tayo ng increase sa ating profit. Now, for our requirement number 2, may sales increase daw na 10%. So, let us compute yung sales increase na 10%. So, for this, 250 multiplied by 10%, yan, 25, then 100,000 multiplied by 10%, this will be 10,000. Ang contribution margin na increase, 10% will be 15,000. And then, sa ating fixed cost, this will remain true. So, wala dito increase kasi constant ang ating fixed cost. And meron tayong total increase sa profit natin na 15,000. Nag-increase daw ng 10% eh. If sales increase by 10%, so yan. Now, let's compute 250 for the total. 250 plus 25, this will be 275. And then 100 plus 10, this will be 110,000. Then 150 plus 15,000 na increase sa contribution na margin natin. So the total contribution margin would still be 165,000. And then, yung fixed cost natin, since fixed to at constant to in total, kaya 120,000 pa rin. And ang total profit natin, 165 contribution margin minus 120 na fixed cost. So, the total profit is 45,000. So, 45,000 total profit, nagkaroon tayo na 15,000 na increase. And we know now, to compute now for our degree of operating leverage, so percentage ay change daw sa ating pre-tax profit divided by our change in sales. So, in degree of operating leverage natin, change sa pre-tax profit, that will be 15,000 daw. Divide yung ating total sa sales kanina. This will be, gawin natin tong decimal. This will be 0.5. So, 0.5, ito ay 50%. So, 50% daw. Kaya, ayan. So, degree of operating leverage daw natin, 5 times siya. Itong 5 times ito ay 50%. Kaya, 50% increase or 50% yung profit increase sa ating profit, sa ating profit. So, now, we are done with requirement number 2. I have here another problem. So, problem number 4. Yan, ito yung problem number 4 natin. I will just upload this sa ating Google Classroom and then you could solve this on your own as a practice solution or practice solving nyo na lang ito given na to. You could solve this on your own. So, that is all, and that concludes my discussion for today, and thank you all for this class. Bye-bye.